Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. In this session, we are going to discuss about the backend web framework called Django. It is a popular web framework used by all web developers in the market. Who am I? I am Vijayan and I am the web developer and the UI UX designer. Also, I am a founder of Waspify software company. In this session, we are going to discuss about the web technology, how the web technology involved in the real world, and next about the backend technologies in deep. So here we are going to discuss about what are the backend technologies that are available and popular in the market. And next we are going to discuss about the Django Web Framework, how to use a Django Web Framework, how to create a project, and what are the components inside the Django project. And next we will be looking on to the practical session where you will be understanding how to use the Django Web Framework, how to create it, how to modify it, and how to deploy it in the web server. And at the end, I'll be creating a web application using the backend and front end and the middleware so that you will have the clear picture how the real web technology works in the real world. Now, how does a web architecture looks like? Most of us have the same query. So how does a web architecture looks like? So without understanding this basic concept, we cannot move further into the web technologies. So first we need to understand the web architecture. How does it looks like? What are the components are there in the web architecture? So let's check it out. The web architecture has the database, a backend, a middleware, and the front end. As we are going to discuss about the backend, let's see what is the backend. The backend is the main component in the web architecture which handles the request received or sent from and to the front end. It also have a communication with the database where the data can be stored or retrieved. In the backend, we have another component called the middleware. Middleware is a component which lies next to the backend, which brings the communication between the front end and the backend. And it also helps to manage the data that flows across through the front end and the backend pipeline. Now, you may have a question, how does the backend and the front end gets communicated? You might all know that in Django, we are using the Python programming language. And in the front end, we might use a React.js or Angular.js or Express.js. Those web framework are written using JavaScript. Just imagine how the Django as a Python and the React as a JavaScript gonna communicate. They should have a common programming language or an object that to communicate each other. So here, the basic language that used in the two communication of backend and the front end is called the JSON file. JSON is a JavaScript object notation which clearly known as an API. So API is nothing but the application program interface. This application program interface brings the interface between the backend and the front end. So now let's check out with the front end. Front end is nothing but a client side development where they'll be building using a HTML, CSS and JavaScript, which brings an attractive website where the end user can involve them into the web development. So the user can post the data and get the data through the API which pass through the middleware and reaches to the backend for the processing. So now let us deep dive into the backend. What is a backend? As I said, the backend is responsible for the server and application handling and the database handling. The backend, it's a server which makes the front end to request and get the data. And it's an application which runs on a Python, as here we are going to discuss about the Django, and it has the database connectivity. So the popular framework that are available in the market are Django, Flask, Laravel, Spring Boot, Express.js and more. The Django and Flask are the web framework which is being developed by using the programming language called Python. The Laravel is used by PHP and Spring Boot will be using the Java, and in Express.js we will be using the JavaScript and more. Now, what is a Django? We all have this question. What is a Django? Why we are using that? How we are going to use that? So let's check that in the coming session. So as I said, Django is a Python based web framework. The complete component which being written in the Django is using the Python programming languages. So if you need to excel in the Django, you need to have the basic knowledge of the Python programming language. And Django is also an open source web framework. The architect pattern that being used in Django, it's called model template view, or in the short it's called as MTV. And here we are going to use the REST framework for the API service. REST framework is nothing but an representative state transfer which allows the front end to communicate to the back end using the middleware. Here where the middleware comes into the picture. So what is model view and template? Why does that architecture is meant for Django? Let's see that. Model is nothing but that defines the database structure how we are going to implement. If I am creating a backend server that stores and manipulates and processes the data for an employee, I am going to create an employee database. So those employee database, the structure has to be created in the model of the Django web framework. So it doesn't mean the data is getting stored in the model part of the Django. No, it has the structure, how the database has to be defined. And next, moving to the template. Template is nothing but the web page that has to be responded back to the front end or the API services. The HTTP response, how is to be posted back to the front end, will be done in the template part. The view. The view defines the functionality behind every action that has been happening in the Django. When the user posts the data, those data comes from the front end in a form of API, the JSON packet. So those packages will flow through the middleware and reaches to the backend server. Here, view will take those requests and process it. Based on the process, it has to be saved in the database or it has to be responded back to the front end. So this is all about the Django model, template and view. When you are creating the Django web server or a Django web application, you will have a clear picture what is this model, template and view. So let's start creating a new project. If you need to create a new project, you need to have the Django module in your system. To install that, you need to use the command called python-m pip install Django. So this command will install the Django package or Django module in your system. After installing that, you can create a new project by this command called django-admin space start project space your project name. And then you need to redirect to that project which you have created. It will be created in the form of the folder. You need to redirect into that folder and there you will have the manage.py Python package which will manage the entire web server. So using that manage.py, you need to create a new application inside that project. So a single project will have multiple applications. For an example, if you are creating a project for an college, so the project name will be the college and the applications which I am going to create multiple inside the project will be for the online examination or for the students portal or for the staff portal and so on. So let's not waste the time. Let's quickly jump into the practical session and let's see how the Django works. So let's start coding. First, you need to check whether you have Django package in your local machine. So what you need to do? Basically, Python has a package management. So the package management is done by pip. So pip is the tool which is used by the Python to install and uninstall the package. So all the records will be saved under pip. So I need to check whether I have installed Django package in my local system or not. So just type pip3 space list. This will show you all the packages that you have installed using pip3. As we discussed in the earlier session, you know how to install the Django package in your local machine. If you are using the Windows, you need to type python 3 -m, which means module, and pip3 and install Django. This is the command which you need to use in Windows machine. If you are using Mac or Linux operating system, you just need to type pip3 install Django. In some machines, if you are not running it in the super user mode, you just need to add sudo in front of pip. You can see that I have a Django repository in my desktop. So let us create a project inside that. So I'm going to my desktop, cd desktop and Django repository. In this, you can see there is no other folder inside that. I just opening in the local machine. You can see there is no folder here. Let me do one thing. I'm going to start a new project inside that. So to start a project, you need to type the command as I said, Django admin start project and the project name. Here I'm keeping the project name as webinar. And let's type enter. You can see the command is executed without any error, which means the project has been created successfully. If you go to Django repository, you can see the folder called webinar that has been created. When you open it, you can see manage.py is the server management Python file, and the folder which is created the same as the name of the project, which will have the settings and the URL path for the project. Okay, now let me create a application. For that, I need to redirect myself into the project folder. So cd space webinar, and when you list, you can see the manage.py here. Now I need to create a new application using the manage.py. So what I need to do is python 3 manage.py and type start app. So here I'm creating a web application. So I'm creating a name for that as web app. Let's type enter. You can see the command has been executed without any error. That means the web application is also being created. So let me go to the Django repository again. You can see the web app folder has been created inside that. And you can have the note that admin.py, app.py, model.py, test and views.py has been created inside the web app. So every web application will have the unique files as I shown here. Okay, let's start coding. Here I'm using Visual Studio Code to edit the file. So you can see the clear direct structure here. As I said, web app, webinar is there. Yeah, migrations file and the app.py, admin.py, model.py, views.py. As I said in the early session, the model view template structure is maintained here. As you can see the model.py here, this file that gonna define the structure of the database, and view file that gonna define what the functionality has to be happen in the backend. So let me quickly show you the setting.py. In the setting file, you will have all the list of applications. I'll show you when you need to migrate it all these applications to the web server. And the middleware, this is the middleware as I'm talking about when I'm explaining the architecture of the web framework. And here the template, as we mentioned in the model view template. And this is the database which the Django has been using. The SQLite 3 is the default database which coming along with the Django package. If you want to use another database, you can switch over to Postgres or MySQL. And this is the static URL where you can import the static files into your HTML files. For example, if you need to embed the CSS code, an external CSS code, or an image or a video or any other file into your HTML file, you need to specify all the specific path for the static URL and the static root. So let's move on creating a web server. To start a web server, you need to use the command called run server. It's a sub command which is coming under manage.py. Let me show you what are the sub commands that is available under the manage.py. So just type python 3 and manage.py. You can see the list of sub commands that comes along with the manage.py. Here you can see change password, create super user, and test server and run server. This is the command which we are going to use now. Let us check. Let me clear the screen. Let me type python 3 manage.py and run server. You will see an error. It's a warning message which says that admin, auth and content type and session has not been migrated to the web server. For that, you need to migrate those packages or those modules to the web server. But you can see still the web server is getting started, but these features are not embedded into that. So let's migrate those modules to the web server. Let me open another terminal. Here let me redirect to Django. I am going to use python 3 manage.py and I am going to migrate. When I hit enter, you can see all those modules has been migrated to the web server. Now let me quickly show. I'll just quit this, I'll clear the screen and I'll restart the server again. Now we can see no error will be shown there and the server will be run successfully. So this is the localhost ID, so I'll just copy this ID or go to the browser and paste it there. You can see the Django server will be installed successfully and it is running perfectly. But my intention is I want to create my own web application which can be shown in this web page instead of this default web page. So let me go to the file. So here the default page which is showing is coming under the view.py. In the view.py you can see there is no function here. So the every page which you have to be displayed in your HTML site or the web browser, you need to define a specific function here. Now I am going to create a new function for that. So as I said, the view.py defines the functionality behind the each action. So let me create a function and let I name it as index and request. So basically all the view.py, all the modules or all the packages or all the functions which we are defining inside the view.py should have a request. So the request will be the default parameter for the function if the function is returning any HTTP response. So here I have created an index, then I need to return. I am returning HTTP response. This is the function which comes with a package called HTTP. So I need to import that as well. So from django.http import HTTP response, and this function will return the HTTP response to the web page. So I am saying hello there, Vivek here, and just saving it. And I go to web browser. Even if I am refreshing, I won't get anything because the server doesn't know where the function is and when it need to be triggered. So let me go to the view.py, which will be there in the webinar, which will be there in the web base setting page side. So in the web settings site, you can see the setting.py and url.py. This will be the source file. This will be the root for the web backend. So I need to include a new url.py which refers to my new web application. So what I'll be doing is I'll be creating a new file in my web application which called url.py. What I'll do is, if I want, you can copy from here and paste it in the web app, and you can delete this as well, right? Okay, so now I need to link my url.py which is inside the web app to the web server which is there in the webinar settings site. So let me create a link. For that, you need to install another function called include, and then I need to set the path. Let the path be blank as of now, and I need to include the path for the web app and the url.py. So web app, you need to comment it in the string because the include accepts only when it is the string. Web app.urls, and I'm just saving, and I need to save. So here you need to create a pointer to which function in the view.py has to be triggered when the user enters the URL. So here I'll be typing path, let it keep it blank as well, and here instead of using include, I'll be pointing out the view function which I have written already. So let me say views dot index, and the name will be homepage. Here in this file url.py, it doesn't know where the view.py is, so you need to import that as well. So from dot import views. So the dot means that it need to search in the same folder. So let me save it, go to file, go to browser, just refresh. You can see, hello there, Vivek here. In the last session, you have seen how to use the views and how to deploy the server. And now we are going to check with how to work with the model and the template part. Now let me go to the VS Code. Here in the model.py, we are going to create the structure for how the database or the tables to be. So here everything has been defined in the way of class. That's why I'm going to create a class for here. So, okay, let's assume we are creating a database for an employee information. So class employee models.model. The class name is nothing but the table name, and the objects which we are creating inside the class is the column name or the attributes. So let me create the serial number. Will be the integer field, and the username or employee name, models dot character field. We need to set the limits, and the employee salary. So now we have created a class which defines the structure of the database and while returning how the data should be. So now let us see where the class has been created. Whenever you are doing a changes or modification into the web app, we need to make the migration. So let me go to the terminal now. Whenever you're doing any modifications to the file inside the web application, you need to migrate it. First, you need to move the changes from make migrations. So here I'm going to type Python 3 manage.py make migrations. So you can see no changes detected as of here because I have added the new modifications there. So you can directly migrate it. And now when I migrate, you cannot see any further changes that have been migrated. It is only the all migrations that will be happen in the admin, authentication, content type and session. If your application changes has to be registered when you are making the migrations, you need to add your application in the setting file. Let me show you. Go to the settings. Under the installed apps, you need to add your app name. Here our app name is web app. and save it. Let me go to the terminal again. Let me clear the screen. When you are entering the make migrations, it has been fetched the create a new model object. So the object employee has been created, which means the table has been created. And now you have to migrate it. So typing the same command as migrate, you can see web app.initial. That means the particular employee object has been initialized in the web application. So to see the structure of the database, you need to go to the administration tab. So every Django web server has its own administration page. So let me go to the browser again. Here at the end of the URL, just type /admin. Why we are maintaining admin here? Let me go to the URL and show you. In the URLs, you can see it is installing the admin sites URL. So this admin sites URL is inbuilt by the Django, which redirect to the Django's administrator page. So that's why we are putting /admin. So when we are redirecting, when I'm pressing enter, you can see we have redirected to the Django administration page. But here I don't have any username or password to log in. Just try Vivek. I'm just entering some random password. It doesn't allow me to enter. At least you need to be a staff or a super user to enter into the Django administration page. So that's why I'm here to create a new super user. Let me go to the terminal. As I showed you earlier, the sub commands in the manage.py, you might have noticed that we have seen a create super user as a sub command. So let me type that, Python 3 manage.py create super user and hit enter. It will ask for the username. Let me type Vivek and the mail address. Yep, and the password. Yes, so the super user has been created successfully. Now let me go to the web page again and enter my credentials there. Now I can enter into the Django administration successfully. You can see here, I can see only the groups and the users. Users defines the number of users which I am creating inside that. This is used for authentication purpose. If I'm creating a web application like a Facebook or a Twitter, for the login purpose, I can use the Django administration login functionality inside that. And the group defines the group which you are creating within these users. So here I cannot see anywhere that where I can see my tables which I created just now. I have created employee table, but I can't see anything here. To add that employee table in your admin page, you need to modify the admin.py. Let me go to the code. In the admin.py, you need to register your table in the admin site. For that, you need to import that. So admin and the model.py lies in the same folder. You can just import directly, like from dot import models. Or else if you have only one table, instead of importing the entire models or the entire Python file, you can just import just the class. So I am changing this as dot models import employee, and then I need to add and I need to register that to the admin site. So admin dot site dot register, I need to register the employee. So now this has been registered successfully. Let me go to the admin site and let me refresh. You can't see anything here still now because we haven't done the migration yet. So let me go to the terminal. As I said, since I add our app into the setting.py, every time when I'm making any changes to the web application, we need to make the migration. Let me make the migrations. No changes detected. Fine. Let me migrate. You can see all migrations has been happened in admin auth. So our changes has been done in the admin. So that also been migrated. So now you can see under Django administration, you can see the web app here. When I'm clicking the employees, you can see there is no data inside that, there is no record. You can add a record just by clicking add employees. I'm clicking the serial number 1, employee name, my name, salary 50,000. Right, and I'm just saving it. You can see database has been saved. But here you cannot see the output in the way which you like. Just by seeing the employee object, if I'm adding another one like 2 Vijayan as 60,000 and I'm just saving, it shows as employee object 2. It is not such an easy way to read from the outline. So let me go to the code. In the model.py, when it is creating an output, just add another function called string, which is the inbuilt one. You need to add here the self, the normal functionality which we used in the Python. Any object you are creating inside the class, if you need to refer into the another function which has been created inside the class, you need to use the self. So here I'm going to return self dot employee name. You can change it as a string, it will be helpful, plus has the salary, or you can make it as earned. You can put string self dot salary. When I'm saving, when I'm refreshing here, you can see Vijayan earns 60,000 and Vivek earns 50,000. Great. Now let's see how we can add an entry from a web browser from our own site. There is another way to interact with this database, that's called as shell. Let me show you the shell. Let me clear the screen, and you need to type python 3 manage.py. Inside that, you might have noticed we have the sub command called shell. Let me type shell. It will open the interactive shell which deals with the Django web server. So I need to import the module first from web app dot models import employee. You can see that has been executed successfully. Then I need to read all the data, like in SQL you will be typing select star from employee, same like that here you need to get all the data from the employee. So saving in a variable employee dot objects dot all the data will be saved in the when I'm entering the when I'm viewing the value of you can see the 2 records which we have saved in the database. Now I need to see the individual one. So okay, let me use the for loop here. So for x in reading the x dot username, and I can read the username here, but here we are not using the username. Let me check the database, it's an employee name, so I need to name exactly same how we have created the object in the class. So employee name, I hit enter. You can see Vivek and Vijayan. If you want the salary accordingly, just type x dot employee name, and you can just add x dot salary. But here you are getting error. As I said, everything is saved as an object. You need to modify this as a string before executing it. So in the command, we just need to type string and you can see here, as the salary is an integer and the employee name is a string, you cannot concatenate both of them. So just make sure you are concatenating using the string when you are displaying in the web page or in a terminal. In the last session, we have seen how to create a model. Now we are going to see how to create a template in a Django web server. Templates, it's nothing but a place where it can store web pages or a HTML files. Let me show you. Here in the current directory, we can't see any template folder where we can upload our HTML files that has to be deployed when a particular function has been triggered. So here inside a web app, I'm going to create a new folder called templates. Let me create it. Templates. Inside the templates, I would like to create a new file called index.html. Now I'm going to create a simple HTML. So HTML5, document is index file. And here I would like to use the CSS library called Bootstrap. Let me include our Bootstrap links in our index.html. So now I have copied and linked the CDN of the Bootstrap, which is the link which directly communicates the HTML file to the Bootstrap, and that means it includes the Bootstrap library into our index.html page. So let me create an interactive web page. Here to show my name, I'm just creating a container. So container, inside that I like to create a row. Inside that I would like to create a column of sm of 6. You can see hello. Let it be as hello and keep it as a web page, so we will be notified when we create a code that shows this current web page in our web browser. As of now, if you go to our website and type this URL, you can see only hello there, Vivek here. This is the HTTP response which we have created, but I don't want that HTTP response anymore. I want my HTML page to be displayed here, which I created now, that shows hello web page. So let me go to view.py. Here instead of this HTTP response, let me remove it, and I am going to render the HTML files here. For that, I am going to use the function called render. Inside the render, it is mandatory to provide the 3 properties into that function, or the 3 arguments that has to be passed into the render function. One is the request, which we have got from this parameter that has been passed in the index function. As I said, that to be passed with all the functions that replace or respond the HTTP formats. So request, comma, the file which we are going to render. In our case, we are going to render index.html. And then the context. Let me explain you what is the context in the latest manner. Now I'm just keeping as title as Vivek. So what does this mean? The context is nothing but a dictionary which holds the key and the pair values. Here the key is the title and the value is Vivek. So this is nothing but these are the parameters which you're gonna pass in index.html, so the key values will be replaced by the pair values. Let me go to index.html. Here how to use those key values here. So I'm just modifying here as hello web page. From using the double parenthesis, I'm going to type title. As you can see, when the web page gets rendered, this title will be replaced by Vivek. Okay, let's see. Let me try to refresh the page. Here you can see that hello web page from Vivek. So this is how you need to render your HTML file in the web browser. So let me do some data binding here. I'm going to bind the data which I'm going to get from the database and show it here. Now let me create another tag inside that. Let it be on column sm6. So let me create another div tag here. So column sm6, and I'm going to display the entire data which I get from the database. Here in our case we have created an employee database, right? So I'm going to get the username and their salary in the form of the HTML page, which I would like to display in my own way. So what I'm going to do it is, first I need to go to view.py. Here, before rendering this information, I need to get the connection between the model.py. So let me establish the connection. So from .models import employee. So now I've imported the employee database here. Now in the index file, as I shown same in the interactive shell, you are taking the value from the employee and saving it in one particular variable. Here I'm having a variable as emp, which means employee. So I'm going to get employee.objects.all. As you know, all the values has been stored in emp, and you can retrieve one by one by using the for loop. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to save the employee name in each variable or a list so that I can display in my web page. Let me create a list called employee names list. I've created the list here. Now I need to push the values into that list. So let me get a list values here for x in emp. Employee name dot list dot append will be the string of x dot employee name. Here what I'm doing is, I'm getting the employee name of each employee and appending it into this list. So my list has these names. Let me save it, and here I can pass a list as a key values. So here I'm going to pass the list as a key values. So here so here I'm going to create employee list. So emp underscore list will be this employee list which we have created, and saving it. Now I'm going to index.html. Here I would like to display in a line by line. So you can write a for loop and a if statement in a Django template. So such kind of conditions or a statement can be executed by using a parenthesis followed by the $sign. So inside a parenthesis and a $sign, you can execute any statement which we are using in the Python. So for each employee in, we are going to take the list which we have got here, copy the emp list here and paste it for each employee. And let me close here the for loop, end for, and now here I'm going to list each employee in a list manner, so that I need to create a ordered list or unordered list. Let me create an ordered list. Our for loop should be executed within the unordered list so that the list can be viewed in a beautiful manner. Let me show you. Li, and I would like to display that for each employee. So that will be each underscore m. I can see my page like this. So I want to display it in a different way by using the bootstrap. So instead of showing in the list, I'll just comment this, but I would like to use the for loop statement here and the end for loop. So now let me use some div tags using alert. So alert in primary mode, so role will be alert, and here I can show you the each employee name. This will be in a good manner. Here instead of the div tag, I can create another tag called a header tag. That looks good. And let me create this title in a span in a different color. So let me create a span and a style with a color red. Yeah, so this looks good for me. Let me check in the web browser. I'm gonna refresh this. So let us see. You can see now this looks good. If you want me the same color, I'll show you how to pick the color. Just right click, go to inspect element, and there you can get the color from here. Just copy the color from here and replace it with the title. So your title will look same as the color which you are given in the web page. Close it and just try to refresh it. Now I think this looks good. If I'm adding the new values to the record, then the web page will be changed dynamically. If I'm adding a new employee here, say 3, admin 2 is an employee, or you can name it as employee 3, salary is 10,000, and I'm saving it. It has been saved successfully. Then I go to index file. If I refresh, I can see the new data here. So this is how the template works in Django Web Framework. In next session, we will be seeing the complete web architecture in the way of front end, back end, and the middleware. So I will be creating a small project using the Django as a backend and React.js as a front end, and using the middleware I can show you how the data is getting communicated using APIs. So let's check it out. Now we are going to use the existing Django project to build our new small project. So let's edit our Django project by using the REST framework. Now we are going to the setting page and we are adding the REST framework in the installed apps. And we are adding the course header, which is used to communicate between the front end and the back end. It is called the middleware. So we need to add that middleware in our middleware list as well. Now we need to add the whitelist where the Django accepts and responds the data when it is posted by or requested by the React app. When you execute or deploy the React app, it will run on the local host and the port number 3000. So we need to add in that whitelist as well. Now in the view.py, we need to import the view set from the REST framework package. Same like that, in the model view, we are going to use that in a serializer. So what we have to do is we need to create a new file which is called as serializer.py. You can name it as anything, but for the good naming convention, we are just maintaining it as serializer.py. Here we need to import the REST framework for the serializer. And we need to also import the models which we have created to serialize the model. Now we are going to create a class with the same as this model name followed by the serializer, and we are going to pass the parameters of the serializer and the model serializer. Inside that, we are creating a meta class to process that data, which will be serialized. So we are passing the model as the employee which we have got in the top, and here we are going to add the fields which has to be responded back when a front end requests the data. So we are just responding only the employee name and the salary, but not the serial number. We are going to the views and we are creating a new view here. So we are importing the serializer which we have created, and it's the employee serializer. Now we have to create a new class which is called as a view set class. So class followed by the employee class set or by the view set, passing the class argument like view set dot model view set. And here we need to pass the serializer which we have created. In the serializer class, it will be the employee serializer, and we need to pass the query set which query has to be executed. So here it will be the getting all objects, so employee.objects.all. So all the data will be responded back in a JSON format with the selected fields as you shown here. Now in the url.py we need to add the routers through which the API response has been captured. So we are importing the routers, and we have to create a variant for the router using the default router class. And we need to register the path through which the data has to be observed and which view set has to be responded back once the request has been raised. It will be view set which we have created now. And we need to include the path through which the API request will be captured. We need to include the view set router which we have included now. It will be router.urls. Now we are executing the server or deploying the server. So now you can see the error which shows the co-shader. So we might have added that E. We need to remove it. Should be CORS followed by header. Just by removing E and just saving it and restarting the server. Now the server works fine. In this URL we can see our web page which we have created, but we need to see the API. So /API, you can see the API route here, and by clicking the URL from the router you can see the API request will be displayed down here. So this API will be transferred to the React app for the processing. So now we are about to create a new React app. So the syntax will be create -react-app and followed by the app name. Here we are just creating as front end. So the building process of this React app will take some time, so we'll just forward it. So you can see now our project has been created. This is the React app. Now let us open the React folder and just edit in VS Code. Here you can see the index.js where the app will be rendered into. This will be the front end, and we can see the front end in detail in another session. So here we are creating a new component, and inside the component I'm going to create a JSS file which will be the extensive JavaScript file where you can write both the HTML and the JavaScript components at the same time. Here you need to replace the app by server. So here we are importing the necessary package for the React, and we are also importing the exhaust, which is the package that used to get the data through an API and process it. And now we are creating a new class which is called a server, and we are going to create a constructor which accepts all the properties of that particular component. And we are creating the super class for that props, and the data will be posted in a dictionary manner as we are getting it in an API. And now we are creating a new function called a refresh list. We are creating this function in such a manner that the exhaust will get the data from that API and then save it in the state.data which we have created in the constructor of this particular component class. So we are posting the URL through which the Django provide its API services. As we shown earlier, it will be localhost colon 8000 followed by API followed by the employee, and then we are going to get the data. We are stating the new state and we are passing the data. In a dictionary order. So data colon rest dot data. And here we are creating a component did mount function which will be mounted when the class got executed. So we are passing the refresh data. In the render we are returning the HTML div tag. Now here we can create a button or else. Now I'm just posting it as a button which will get the data from Django, and this button should have an on-click functionality which will trigger the refresh data. So whenever we are getting a new data, we just click on refresh button, automatically the data will be refreshed from the Django through API. Here I am just adding console.log to see the data which we are getting from the Django. As of now, we are not creating a highly interactive web page using the React. We are just letting you know how the data has been fetched from Django to the front end called React through a middleware called course header. Now, when we are executing a React app, in the console tab, you can see all the data that has been posted. When we are clicking the refresh button, you can see in the console tab, the data from the Django has been retrieved. So this is how our project works. Our data is being stored in Django and it's passed through and REST framework API, and it is being caught or fetched by the React app. So this is how it works in the real world. So that's it guys for today's session. Hope you like this video. Please hit on like, share and subscribe our channel. If you need to know more about Django or any web framework in the front end or back end or the DB, you can contact me at any time. Please be part of our Waspify team so you can learn more and you can work in a real-time projects so you can make your day so productive. You can join us through our website which is www.waspify.in. Thank you.